Ladies and gentlemen, it's your man Gregory Devon. What is going on? I met you again with another hot episode of the Sanctuary Podcast. I thank you guys for tuning in today to Envision Radio as we engage another hot conversation on today. I want to take this time, first of all, to thank all my loyal listeners for tuning in each and every week as we engage these hot topics, trying to strengthen relationships, strengthen love, strengthen marriage, strengthen dating. And you guys are always so tuned in every week. But today, I got a different episode today. I want to talk about heartbreak on today, specifically trying to love after heartbreak. All of us have experienced moments where we have had our heart broken, some worse than others. And now we find ourselves back in the dating pool. But it's different now navigating when you have some wounded feathers. So I've got a very special friend I want to bring on today, and she's gonna chop it up a little bit with me today about love after heartbreak. I want you to welcome to the sanctuary, Miss J. Monroe. What's
Hey,
happening?
hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you so much. Thank you. Just honored to be here. So, again, thank you for having me.
Well, we're indeed glad to have you. I know when I initially came across you, you had such a great conversation that I said, you know what? I've got to get her on my show. So
Yeah,
I'm definitely glad that you took the time to free your schedule and you are here. I only
absolutely.
had to ask you one time, and you said absolutely. So I want to thank you just for agreeing to come on. I know that you're busy and have a lot of things that going on. You have a lovely platform
Thank
on
you.
TikTok and a large following. I want to commend you for the work that you are doing over there as well. But I want to get into this conversation because I
For sure.
felt like uh, you really have something to say, and you struck me as a very honest and open person,
Mhm.
that I had to have a conversation with you and to get your perspective on a lot of the different things that we have discussed, some of those things. So let's just dive right in.
Sure.
If I can ask, how old are you, Jay?
I am 37. I'll be turning 38 this year.
Awesome. 30, 38. There were 38, 38 this
Mhm.
year. I mean, I'm a little bit older. I'm 42. But I definitely remember being in my 30s and feeling like, the world was my oyster. Um, as I've already said, all of us have experienced heartache and heartbreak.
Mhm.
If I could ask you this, what's the one thing for you that
Mhm.
sticks out about heartbreak that leaves such a lasting impression?
Whew. I would say the one thing about heartbreak is that I found out that I am typically the one that breaks my own heart
Mm,
over and over and over. I used to think like, oh, maybe it was the guys I was dating, but
mhm,
from some level of accountability, some of the pain and the hurt
mhm.
that I have experienced, I have definitely inflicted it on myself for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
I mean, starting off with personal accountability is something that a lot of people are afraid to do
hmm
because a lot of people jump straight to it was somebody else's fault,
hmm
what this person did. And while those things may be true, I think that there are some things that happen
hmm
before the actual separation of the relationship that
hmm
led to that we're sometimes afraid to explore.
Yeah.
So, can I ask you to share your personal journey to right now?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I would say for me, especially if we're talking about on the journey to healing from so much heartbreak and what I just mentioned, I grew up in a very, I would say, emotionally and physically violent household.
Mhm.
So a lot of us have experienced trauma all of our lives. And when you start to experience abuse repeatedly and then from different people, it becomes your normal. It becomes what you know. It becomes what you identify with. It becomes your perception of love. You don't know any better if that's all you've been giving. If I loved you, is whoopings and verbal abuse, and surely you start to seek that out. I would say from there, at about 14, I really started running away from home, and that as a young girl really put me in a different kind of survival mode. I would say something that a young girl should not experience, but then we know why those things happen when things are happening at home. We fast forward from there, and by 18, I am cold hearted. I have no respect for men. I am working in the nightlife, so at clubs. And at this point, I only see men for a resource. Um, I at this age, by this time, I have learned how to manipulate and maneuver men from men. Um, we fast forward that because I don't want to make the story too long. I know we got an hour. We fast forward to a viral video of me admitting, saying that, you know what, I've never loved a man.
Mm,
I don't know how to love a man. I
mm,
know how to seduce a man.
mm,
I know how to be a vibe for a man.
mm,
I know how to be pretty for a man. I know
mm.
how to cook. But when it comes to this emotional connection with a man, that terrifies me. I don't even know where to begin.
Wow.
Getting to that point took a level of accountability, and me realizing that the men that I chose to date, they weren't bad men, but I was seeking out my own trauma. I was seeking out my own demise. I was doing that, and I was looking for relationships in which I could do that in, that I didn't need to have an emotional connection for you, because it's
Mhm,
like, what can you do for me?
mhm,
Well, then you end up with a child, right?
mhm.
Um, and those are and not that my child is a consequence. He is definitely a blessing. Oh, such a
Right,
blessing.
right.
Such a blessing. Made me the reason I am the woman I am today. But looking upon that in that viral video, that's when I came to the moment, like, I chased this very shallow idea of using men because I was hurt and too afraid to love, because I didn't know or didn't feel that I was worthy of a man loving me. So I'd
Mm,
rather just use you, because if I use you, I have no emotions. If we break up, I'll just find somebody else to replace you.
mhm,
That's how we get here. So, like, wow, like, you got a lot of pain, and because
mhm.
you don't want to, you're too scared to be loved of your brokenness, that you rather end up in relationships that you know will never even work out.
Wow,
It's self-sabotage. Yeah.
wow, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting journey. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, you have been so open and honest in your testimony, I should say, that I
Mm-hmm.
think that it is more of an inspiration to others than you think, because there are so many who are afraid to speak and to elaborate upon what they've been through,
Mm-hmm.
what they have experienced. I think that God cannot hear what you don't reveal.
Yep.
And a lot of times we won't even reveal things to God, even in prayer, because we feel like we are ashamed of what
Mm-hmm.
I've been through. I don't want to say it out loud or somebody hear it and then judge me
Mm-hmm.
for my circumstance, not realizing that we all have had moments that have been our own personal midnights to where we couldn't see the other side of through, couldn't
Mm-hmm.
see a brighter day. We thought that this, this might be it for me. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes heartbreak can feel like grief.
Oh
You
yes,
know?
it hurts for real. Yeah, like, it
Yeah,
hurts when they say a piece of your heart, where you can really feel that piece of your heart break. Like, oh yes, I've experienced that.
yeah.
Yes.
So, what are some common challenges that you think people face when they're trying to open up now after having their heart broken?
Ooh, I think, GD, we have really talked about this on
Mhm.
the TikTok, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things is the balance between not being so guarded to where I won't even let a man get next to me,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Versus that balance of also being wise enough and being strategic. Because I tell women, like, this can't just be about emotions. Somebody just making you feel good is not enough. But I
Right.
think that is the balance when you have experienced a lot of heartbreak and you're terrified. Nobody
Hmm.
wants to feel that again.
Hmm.
But we get so guarded to where then we start becoming nasty. We
Hmm.
start becoming mean. We start becoming bitter. We start becoming hateful. and it really puts up a wall to where, well, now nobody wants to deal with you because you are so, cold and off-putting. So
Right. Right.
it's hard. I think it's hard for a lot of people to find that balance between, I don't want to give you too much, but I
Hmm.
am a loving person, so I want to open up and show you this love and all this goodness inside of
Right.
me. But if you hurt me, I don't know if my heart can take that again.
Right. You know, you talked about opening back up and not knowing how much to give in the very beginning, and
Hmm.
trying to balance that between pushing the person away
Hmm.
or potentially embracing what might be a good person. I
Hmm.
think that for a lot of people, it's hard to determine a person's intention
Yes.
when we are both fractured and neither one of us wants to state intention without knowing what the other person is thinking.
Yo, you absolutely right. You hit it on the head. And low key too,
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking, because I'm like, you know what? I know the things I used to do. So some of that is like judgment, not even towards the other person, but judgment about
Mm.
myself. Because I'm thinking that they're trying to pull a move that I know, and it's this, like you said, right? You just said it. You hit it on the nail. It's a tug of war. I'm hoping
Yeah.
it ends soon. I'm tired. Okay.
Well, the only way I say to kill a narrative is to put it on the table
Hmm.
and just iron that thing out, exhaust it, let it be what it is,
Hmm.
and no longer allow it to control your life. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? I think that there was a story in the Bible about Jesus approaching this man that had been sitting by a pool for 38 years waiting to be healed,
Hmm.
and he was paralyzed. So his people would bring him there every day for 38 straight years, and the fractured belief was that there was healing in the water. So when Jesus comes to the man, he says, "Do you want to be healed?" And the man says, "I have no one to put me in the pool."
Hmm.
It is amazing that sometimes when a solution shows up, we give excuses.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
The man says that nobody can push me in the water, but he's standing beside healing water in the person of Jesus. And sometimes we allow a great person to come into our life and to really desire to love us, but our excuse is, I can't trust you, or I
Yeah.
don't know who you are, or I don't believe you. And we won't even give them a chance to present who they are to us. We will prejudge a package because we are allowing past pain to control our right now. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I always say that it's not that people are afraid of new love, they're afraid of old pain.
Yeah.
And sometimes the old pain is in my memory still, and it's
Mm-hmm.
right here. It
Yeah.
hasn't gone anywhere.
I
And
feel it.
sometimes
Yeah.
we think that we've healed
Yep.
until someone comes into our space and reminds us of what could occur if this person were to hurt us, right? And I know in our community, especially, we don't have the conversation a lot of times about counseling, about therapy. And I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes we do ourselves a disservice because we don't allow ourselves to go through the healing process. How do you think that somebody can even rebuild their confidence and trust in themselves after a breakup?
Whew. I would say one of the things that you just mentioned is going to be therapy. You
Hmm.
you don't get to, I would say, this place without prayer. Because first of all,
Hmm.
I asked for this. I asked God. I prayed. I like just, when you are going through something for so long and you want relief from it. But it also comes with work.
Hmm.
It also comes with um wanting it. You have to put in the effort to do it. And I think too, like you said, therapy is going to be the biggest one, and then accountability. And I'm gonna tell you something, that accountability hurts. It's not putting yourself down, it's not
Right.
shaming yourself, it's not calling yourself dumb or stupid. But
Yeah.
accountability is saying that at some point, these choices that I
Hmm.
made those choices because I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like at 38, I'm not too much of a victim. And I don't allow myself in adulthood to be a victim in some
Ooh,
scenarios, right?
you
When I
preaching.
was a child,
Hmm.
totally different. I can't
Yeah.
help what I did at 14. I was a girl. I was a young girl. 18 on and up though. you have an option. You have choices.
Right.
And I
Right.
know that hurts. A lot of people don't like to hear that. Even when it comes to the whole thing with the men and women, which is why for
Mm-hmm.
me personally, it's like I don't blame the men that I was with.
Mm-hmm.
I was toxic to them. That's
Mm-hmm.
accountability. And looking back and really assessing those things and evaluating myself and really asking myself why and the what.
Right.
What was that about? The behaviors, the emotions, the attitudes, like the relationship that you've been in. Like when you really gotta sit yourself down and review your life and start
Yeah.
asking yourself, what is that about? And you'll start to see a pattern too. That's another thing that I noticed, and I really prayed for it. And I was like, God, I'm just tired of going through this same emotional pattern. Like enough
Yeah.
is enough. I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah. You preaching. I mean, but you're right. And I think that the difference between you and some others is that you have no problem acknowledging the fact that you know what you could experience so much hurt where you become the
Hmm.
person that hurt you.
Yep.
And I think for a lot of people, they are afraid to admit the fact that they have become toxic on some levels because
Hmm.
behavior is learned. And if I'm around a certain thing for so long, I can't help but pick up certain things simply
Hmm.
based upon I've been around it. Right.
Hmm.
I think sometimes we're trying to get rid of the pain. So we will assign this pain to somebody else because I'll do it to you
Hmm.
to get it off of me. And in that moment, we don't rationalize it that way, but that's what it is. It's a transfer of emotions that we sometimes do to get the pain off of ourselves. And I think because a lot of us have not gone through again a process, right? We
Yep.
won't put ourselves in a position to be healed. We won't put ourselves in a position to be poured into, right? Even if it's not therapy initially,
Hmm.
who do you have in your circle that's going to tell you, Jay, Greg, what's going on? Like you become what you're not. I don't know this person, right?
Yeah.
I know we're on the sanctuary, but can I go to the book of R&B right quick?
Yeah.
You know, what's the name? To me, it says a stranger in my house.
Hmm.
A
Hmm.
while to figure out. There's no way you could be who you say you are. You gotta
Hmm.
be somebody else because he wouldn't touch me like that and treat me
Hmm.
like you do. But she
Hmm.
went on to say, or could it be that the stranger is me? Have I changed so drastically and you have remained the same? So essentially, what she's saying is she lost herself trying to find love. And she thought that this guy was changing when he was remaining the same. And she became a different version of who she needed to be.
Hmm.
That's us. A lot of time, Jay, is that we engage or invest ourselves where we have not studied, right? Like we treat our money better than we treat ourselves.
Hmm.
Like none of us would invest large sums of money into anything that I have not studied, right?
Right.
What's our return gonna be? But we
Right.
don't look at people like that. Before I invest in a woman romantically,
Hmm.
I want there to be some promise of a return.
Right, right. Respectfully, right? Like I feel you. And we don't do that. And you know what? I always call you GD from TikTok, but I was thinking too, I was like, what if the woman that I am today is who
Yeah.
I was all along? And I
Mhm.
had to go through that journey to get to her. I said that in another video.
Mhm.
Like I've worked hard to
Come
be
on now.
her here
Yeah.
where I am today.
Yeah.
That's a blessing.
Yeah.
And and I agree with that. I agree with what you said. Like, we are the strangers to ourselves
Yeah.
sometimes. Like it's and it's so easier to put it on somebody else. And I get it, right? I have a thing about that. And the girls might come for me. But I had to check myself too because a man didn't trap me with a baby. I laid with that man. A man couldn't trap me with a baby if I agreed to lay down, right? That's accountability. No matter how much it hurts me, no matter how much I'm mad, no matter what, and thank God, right, that me and my son's father have a different outcome. But it was a
Mhm.
time where we were not getting along. And I wanted to put all the blame on him.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
not fair because, sir, I laid down with you. I wasn't on any kind of birth control. There was nothing that we were
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
Accountability hurts, but it'll set you free.
Yeah.
And when you can be honest with yourself, and I think I can't speak on all women. I know we can't say all, But sometimes I think as women, that's where we sometimes lack maybe in the dating world because
Hmm.
we don't trust ourselves and our intuition. To me, that is God given. That is a gift.
All right.
I haven't had a moment. I'm telling you though, for real, every time I went against myself
Yeah.
and trusting what I really felt, and I know
Yeah.
from God, because I did
Yeah.
grow up in the church. Came astray, but I came back. Right? I'm like, I came back. Okay, home. You had to go travel and go do what you had to do, but yeah, come on back home. And with that, every time that I went against myself, it was like going against God because
Yeah.
my feelings were always right.
Hmm.
And it's like the spirit will make, especially in dating, the spirit will make you so uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And when you get to a point where you learn to love yourself, and ladies, and men too, that you really understand that you are deserving of love and respect no matter what you've
Right.
been through,
Right.
it's certain things that just don't feel good anymore. And you won't
Right.
be able, and that's how I know I'm ready for dating now
Right.
versus when I was operating, in the flesh. What can you
Right.
do for me? That didn't get
Right.
me anything.
Right.
Money means nothing. I've experienced that. I've
Mhm.
experienced the highs of a man. I've experienced the lows of a man. None of that means nothing without a genuine connection that is divinely yoked between the man God has for you and the woman. I'm telling y'all, I don't want anything else. I'm cool to wait.
And that's such an honest response,
Hmm.
because there are lots of people, like you mentioned your son, and you mentioned how your son is a result of a decision between two individuals, not
Hmm.
one,
Hmm.
right? I think that, a lot of times we engage a lot of times in back and forths about it's the woman's fault. No, it's the
Hmm.
man's fault. That at
Hmm.
the end of the day, sometimes children suffer
Yep.
because adults are hurting.
Yep.
And we don't realize sometimes the pain that we instill into children by not allowing ourselves to be healed. And
Hmm.
then pain with us becomes what is called generational brokenness. Because
Hmm.
I pass this down to my children, they
Hmm.
become hurt. The children pass this down to their children because at the end of the day, a generational curse is just bad habits that are continuously passed down. It's just
Hmm.
pain that has never been satisfied and healed. It's just hurt that has never been addressed. I think oftentimes we give individuals a bad rap sometimes who have been hurt because when they exhibit certain behaviors that
Hmm.
may be less than what we would say are adequate, that
Hmm.
we judge it, not realizing that that could be you because all of us are sharing this human experience. And I think it's even most appropriate to recognize the fact that we're in the Easter season right now. And
Hmm.
there's no better record in the word of God that shows the humanity of Christ than on the cross
Hmm.
because his human attributes came out on the cross, right? When he said that my God, why hast thou forsaken me?
Hmm.
Even when he said, Father, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. I think we sometimes misinterpret that. What he said, Father, forgive them. He didn't say, I forgive them, because his humanity was speaking.
Hmm.
And he was saying, I need you to do what I can't do in this moment,
Yep.
because his humanity was speaking. I think sometimes that's how we are, is that we sometimes don't realize that in order for us to forgive people, sometimes we have to be honest and say, I can't do that right now,
Yeah.
but let me ask God to do it.
Yep.
Then let me learn as I move forward how to do it.
Hmm.
I could say I forgive you, knowing full well I'm harboring ill will.
And I'm a tar. I listen. I know. I don't believe in the whole horoscope thing, but I will
Yeah.
say, just me personally, I am stubborn. Maybe that is, I forgive people, but it takes me a while for me to want to come back around. And
Mhm.
yeah, I would say just too, like, just pray over your heart about forgiveness for people, and then honestly and truly, like, forgive yourself. We are so hard. I mean, the conversations that we have when nobody's looking, those
Yeah.
voices that come in that tell
Yeah.
you that you're not doing enough, you're not
Yeah.
enough. It should no stop
Yeah.
that and be like, you know what? I forgive myself for what I
Yeah.
didn't do, and I'm gonna move
Yeah.
forward. I'm gonna make it better.
Yeah.
Right? I'm gonna be better than I
Yeah.
was the day before. That's all you can do. And that's one
Yeah.
thing that I do try to preach to people. There is only one way to glow, but up, right? So if you keep moving forward, But yes, please forgive yourselves. Please forgive yourselves for everything that you didn't do right.
Hmm.
And then also give yourself grace.
Come on with the grace there.
For real, you have to give yourself
Yes.
grace. And
Yes.
grace is the room
Yes.
for forgiveness to me, right? I had to give
Yes.
my grace. And when I started doing that, you know what? I started seeing things differently. I started emotionally just, it just hits different. Like when you are able to do that for yourselves, because you'll start to do it for others. And so from there too, was able to stop blaming people and just being like, oh, well,
Mhm.
men do this and no, like give people grace that humans are humans, right? Like you have not been perfect, right? Like you had to change. Thank God that God gave me grace to change and
Yes.
be. And it's a difference. It's a big difference from anybody that really knows me, for sure.
Jay up here preaching. I agree with you, and I think that you used the perfect word when you said grace, right?
Mhm,
They need grace. We need grace.
mhm.
Like, if I don't give myself grace, I can't grow.
Right,
If I don't
right.
give that person grace, whether it's a relationship or a heartbreak, right? Then if I'm in a relationship and there's no grace, we can't grow,
Mhm.
right? Because everything that you do, I'm gonna hold it against you.
Yep.
I'm gonna feel like, you know what? No, you should have known better. You should have never done that. If
Mhm,
I don't sometimes put myself in your shoes
mhm,
and realize, you know what, I'm human just like you are. I'm gonna need this same grace that I'm having to give to you. I'm gonna need the same grace. I
mhm,
think grace is such a multifaceted word that it shows up in any human relationship, whether it
mhm,
is parent child, whether it is husband and wife, sister to sister, brother to brother, whatever. It shows itself up. Grace is one of those things that is so hard for us to give because I think if you got to step outside yourself
yeah.
and realize, you know what? Let me take the anger out of the room. Let me take a step back
Mhm,
and ask myself, what is really going on here?
mhm,
If I'm inside of a relationship, does this person love me? Yes, they do. So
mhm,
let me realize what they did while it hurt me. They did not mean malice because they apologized. Now, I'm not
mhm.
talking about habitual things. I
Right,
mean, in just
right.
regular instances. But in regard to heartbreak, I think that we even have to give a person grace with that because even if you get outside the relationship, in order for you to be able to close that chapter and move on,
Mhm,
sometimes it takes recognizing the fact that person may have not been capable of giving you what you deserve.
mhm, mhm.
Because a lot of people don't love themselves, and you cannot give what you don't have.
Yep.
And sometimes we expect people to love to the capacity that we're at, not realizing that a person might be giving you all that they have, all
Mhm,
that they know, and it's still not good enough to satisfy your level of love. Because if they're pouring from an 8-ounce cup,
mhm.
but you got a gallon size container,
That's too
those
much.
8 ounces
I can't fill
mean,
all it up. I can't
come
do
on
that.
now. And I think that's what happens sometimes, even with these
Mhm,
heartbreak situations, because
mhm.
every relationship that severs is not because somebody cheated
Yeah.
or was a bad individual. Sometimes you just could not give me what I'm looking for. I think sometimes we expect certain things from people
Mhm,
that they don't know how to give. And it hurts us because I said, well, Jay should be this for me. And I
mhm.
never had a conversation with her
Oh, come on. I
just
was just
to
about to
know,
say.
does she know what that is? Does she
Mhm,
know how to be that kind of woman? Does she want to be that to me? Or
mhm.
have I said, well, you know what? Jay Purdy, she got those cheekbones and them pretty eyebrows, and she keep herself kept up and kept, and I want her to be X, Y, and Z to me.
Mhm.
Never had a conversation with her to figure out, is she ready for that?
Amen.
Does she want to be married? Or this is the kicker. You got people who are hurt over relationships they will never end.
Mhm.
Meaning that it's been 4 months. I'm walking around here saying, yeah, my girl named Jay Monroe. Oh, word, she's pretty. Word gets to Jay. And she like, nah, I'm
We need a
dating.
relationship. I don't know that
Yeah,
man.
I'm dating. In my head, but me and Jaden been on 3 dates. We go together.
Mhm.
We, we go. We what? We go together. In your mind, you're dating. I'm a nice person, and maybe you're considering me
Mhm.
along with Tyrone, Jim, James, and Bob, and that's okay because if you're not in a committed relationship, we all have the freedom to maneuver how we desire, right? But a lot of people find themselves hurt because they assume something
Yep.
and never had an understanding with that person. And even the Bible says that two can't walk together unless they agree.
Yep.
What is our agreement? Have we agreed to move forward as one, as a couple?
And I'm gonna say, Gregory, listen,
No, to me.
I tell the ladies that I was like, a lot of time we give so much to men, and the same thing, we never ask those men if that's what they wanted. Never
Hmm.
ask them that. You
Never.
end up breaking your own heart. And that
Okay.
man did not ask you to come over there, clean up his apartment, cook
Mhm.
his breakfast, let you drive his car. You offered him all that because you wanted him to love you, right?
Yep.
And you thought, if I do all these things for this man, and sometimes it's not just us giving him money, right? It could be our time, our bodies, our energy. And we think that if we do all this for a man, automatically it means we go together. Nope. Nope. Do not be deceived, right? Communicate. Do not be deceived. Communication is so important. And I think that's the key
Yeah.
too. When I say a lot of times I'm gonna speak for me. That
Yeah.
was something that I had to learn that was toxic about me.
Mhm.
Is that I would maneuver those type of situations and be able to manipulate them, right? And
Gotcha.
because if a man, likes me because I'm pretty and I understand that and
Yeah.
everything else, well, I can manipulate this whole situation and have him
Mhm.
thinking that we're together, and and that's not a flex, that's not anything to brag about. But
Yeah.
even then, to be honest with myself and really manipulating the situation because I'm scared of getting hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm playing games, they're playing games, everybody is playing games, and now we all losing. So,
That
and
part.
I just, yeah, communication is so key, and that's something that I talk about in dating too. That I just
Mhm.
feel like dating should just be us getting to know each other and collecting data. I don't need to put all my emotions. It doesn't mean that I'm cold. It doesn't mean that
Mhm.
I got this wall built up, right?
Mhm.
But let me just let's not put so much into so much and so much time, right?
I understand.
And then like you said, having that communication so that we all understand that we're all on the same page. And I think that would help a lot. And that's I think that's part of the heartbreak too, right? Is how you communicate. How do you communicate with yourself? How do
Yeah.
you communicate with your emotions? If you are not able to communicate with yourself and be honest with yourself, you're not ready for a relationship. I
Mhm.
would want to be in a relationship with a man that can hold me accountable. Baby, you know what? I peeped this or vice versa and not be hurt or but hurt about it. And now we having a whole conversation. I want that level of trust and communication and honesty. But I think that comes with too being open to receive those things. And I think it comes with age. Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to have these kind of conversations at 25. No,
Mhm.
absolutely not. Mm-mm.
But again, it's all a part of all of our growth processes, learning
Mm-hmm.
how to learn from our mistakes and move forward and not condemn ourselves for
Mm-hmm.
making wrong choices. I think sometimes if we're not careful, Jay, those wrong choices will cause us to look in the mirror
Mm-hmm.
and not see the soul that God made us to be,
Mm-hmm.
right? So bring me to this point. How important do you feel that loving yourself and self-care
Mm-hmm.
is after heartbreak?
Um, I think whew, I'm big on it. I think self-care and self-love after heartbreak, you need to get up, you need to shower. And I'm not even being funny because this is somebody that has
Yeah.
experienced depression, right? Self
Yeah.
care is not always a face full of makeup.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
You're
So
right.
self care is not always a face full of makeup.
Mhm.
It could be reading. Your self care can be like the books, your relationship with God, your time with God.
Yeah.
Self care could be your discipline. It could be going to the gym. It's very important. It is very important that you are loving on you. The more that you begin, and I didn't understand what loving yourself meant. I thought that was the most cliche thing I had ever heard because I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
everybody says that. What does it mean? No, it really means like
Yeah.
loving you for real. Like, I
Yeah.
love me. I care about me. I care how I look in the morning. I care about what I do to myself. I care about the decisions I make. I care about the person I lay with. I care
Mhm.
about my health. I care about my emotional health. I care about my relationship with God. I care
Mhm.
about the things that make me a better person so that I can move as God intended to me for me to move in this world. And to me, that is the self-love, caring
Mhm.
for myself. Nobody else can do that for me. A man could never do that for me. That's not even the to me, that's not even what a relationship is for. Not to find a man to love me, right? Like, I love
Mhm.
me at the end of the day. Um, but if you don't love yourself, how could you ever love anybody else? It really do. It might sound cliche, but it really does start with you loving yourself, and that's forgiving yourself, um, taking care of yourself, all those things, like all of that matters, all of it.
Mhm. It absolutely does. As I said earlier, you cannot give what you don't have. And a lot of us are trying to love people or give somebody else what I have not learned to give myself.
Greg, I
It's,
can't hear you. I'm so sorry.
you can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
are you able to hear me?
I can.
Yeah, I can't hear you though. Oh,
Audience, can you hear me? And can you hear Miss J?
I can't hear. Let me see. I can't hear you at all.
You can't hear me?
Do you want me to drop and come back?
Drop and come back.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna drop and come back. Hold on.
So the point that Miss J made was so eloquently spoken, when she mentioned that about self-care, and especially after dating, and how sometimes we go through periods of depression to where we sometimes don't want to care for ourselves. We don't want to take those precautions to make sure we don't lose who we are. And I think that mental health is sometimes we don't discuss the impact of that on our psyche. We don't talk about how a breakup can cause one to slip into depression.
Mm.
And I think that, as Miss J was so saying, that small things like washing your body will become taken for granted because we don't realize that if you don't have a positive view of who you are, if you stop loving yourself, loving on yourself, if you are a woman, if you stop doing those nails, stop getting your hair done, stop making sure that you are kept and kept woman, then you will fall into depression because you feel like you have wrapped up who you are inside of a man. And the same thing for gentlemen, because the misconception that we make is that men don't sometimes get their heart broken. There are a lot of men who have faced heartbreak, who are facing depression right now due to the fact that they gave their best to somebody and it was not returned to them.
Mhm.
Men love hard sometimes, right? Because women are socialized to fall in love, right? Meet a man, fall in love, get married.
Go.
A man, if a man falls in love, it's a total different experience for him. For lots of men, it was an accident. You met a woman and she was all that you desired, and you told yourself that you were not going to be vulnerable. You were not going to open up. You were not going to show her the softer side of who you were. But that woman made you so comfortable that you did.
Hmm.
And for whatever reason, things just didn't work out. But now you feel like she's done you a disservice because she has allowed the Hulk to be David Banner now, but now she's gone and you don't know how to deal with yourself. Now you become angry
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know how to maneuver now that you've become a different, softer version of who you are. Now you don't want to love again. And there are those who sometimes get depressed or become players, all because you refuse to do now what you did in the past, and you don't want to fall in love again because you feel like if I do, some woman take advantage of it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you all, this love game is something to talk about because when we think about how multifaceted love is, right, Jay, and how you mentioned before you slipped about the whole self-care thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes how a person treats themselves directly impacts how someone else treats them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if we see somebody that's not taking care of themselves, somebody who has is insecure, there are those who will prey on that. Prey, prey on that.
Yes.
And if you're not careful, you'll be manipulated and controlled because there are people out here who are looking for someone to control. This
Mm-hmm.
is why healing after heartbreak is so essential,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to a young lady who has lost herself after heartbreak? She's stopped taking care of herself. Self-care is non-existent. She
Mm-hmm.
looks totally different now. She's a
Mm-hmm.
different version of what
Mm-hmm.
she used to be.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to her?
Yeah, I would tell her, get up, sis. I have been there. If you are listening to me, if you hear my voice right now, I want you to get up. I want you to know that you're worthy of being healthy. I want you to know that you're worthy of overcoming the pain. And I want you to dig in that place because I know you've got it in you. I know you've been there before. And I want you to reach down in the pain and I want you to fight, right? I want you to fight your way through it. I want you to get up because when you lay down, you're agreeing to the pain. You're
Mhm.
telling the pain that it has control. You're telling depression that it has control. And I know that it can be debilitating sometimes where you literally feel like, I don't want to get up out this bed today. Right. But I want you to get up. And it's important because when you get up, it's those small things, right? You get up today. It could just be like, you know what? Maybe I got up and I washed my face today or I brushed my teeth, those small habits, right? And I want you to find your beast, right? And we talk about 666, but I want you to find your inner, I want you to find that inner energy and get up and fight it because that's the only way you win, right? Depression is an emotion. That's what I've learned. It is an emotion and I'm in control of it. It no longer can control me. I'm in control and you are in control of it too. And when you get up and you start taking care of yourself, you're going to feel better. And that's the first thing, right? Because that's what depression is. It's
Mhm.
emotion. It's a heaviness. It's a sadness, right?
Mhm.
So to lift this weight off you, you've got to fight it, and you're stronger than that. And when you start to fight it, you're gonna feel better. And little by little by little, you're going to start taking yourself back and you're going to start to feel good again. And you're going to start to look in that mirror and you're going to be like, man, I miss this person. Right. And it's okay. Cause listen, y'all, I was 260 pounds. I got there. I had to get up and say, you know what? I am hurting myself and I'm tired. It was bigger. This hit this wall moment and everything, y'all. We all go through it, but you
Yeah.
can overcome it. You can. I promise you, you can.
Yeah.
Right? You gotta dig deep and you gotta find your reason to fight. You can't let depression take you over. You can't. It's an emotion, y'all, and emotions change. They change.
Come on, you better talk in here. You
I'm
just look.
telling you this, and if you
Y'all
get
better
up today,
recognize Miss J. I might start calling her Evangelist J here preaching revival tonight. Y'all better get with it. But but you're right. I love when you said find your reason
mm-hmm,
to get up.
mm-hmm,
I think for all of us, male or female, you got to find your reason to move on.
mm-hmm,
But whether it is your children, whether it is yourself, something that's got to get you up
yep,
out of that ditch and make you take a look in the mirror and realize that you are more than enough. I think there's so many of us that have allowed ourselves through life to just get lost in the sauce. whether it is heartbreak, whether it's life experience, whether it is anything, whether it is even sometimes these parent-child relationships,
Mm-hmm.
are what breaks your heart. You're
Yeah.
right, because sometimes the hurt I experience now with somebody romantically is a direct result of a rough childhood.
Yep.
And sometimes we don't have that conversation about how a person can grow up with a very flawed outlook on love,
Mm-hmm.
and they get entangled as an adult in dysfunctional relationships because that's functional to them.
Yep.
And when you grow up where an abnormal experience has become normal, then I will form broken relationships and I will never see anything wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, if you come along and offer me a substantial one, I'll think that you're crazy.
Right? I'm like, what is that? I don't know what normal is. Oh, you doing too much. This doesn't feel
Yeah,
good. But it is really right. But
yeah.
yeah.
And that for me is heartbreaking, because to see people where they deserve better
Mm-hmm.
but don't know how to receive better,
Mm-hmm.
that's heartbreaking, because it's like, man, I wish that this person could position themselves to receive what God says that they deserve, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if God is love, as we all know, and we recognize the fact that God wants to love all of us, and God does love all of us. But the truth of the matter is, all of us have not received God's love,
Mm-hmm.
because we have to open ourselves up to it. And sometimes many of us are not in the right position to open ourselves up, or to be in the right position, or to even understand what love truly is. Right? If you ask 100 people, what is love?
Different definition.
All those different answers.
Yep.
Not realizing that here's my definition of love. Love is unreservedly giving of yourself for the benefit of somebody else.
Amen.
If you could do that
Mm-hmm.
in any relationship, you will have a level of success. If you can understand that love is giving, not receiving. And even with God, like, how does God love us? God don't love us for our condition, or
Mm-hmm.
based on our condition. God love us because his character is loving.
Mm-hmm.
And when we learn to have a giving character, a giving spirit, when we learn that what I give to you in a friendship, in a relationship, in a marriage, or whatever, essentially has nothing to do with you. It doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's about my character. If I give to you based upon who you are to me, it's conditional,
Right.
because there'll be times I'm upset with you. But being upset with you in a relationship, I should still be the same person. If I love you in happiness, I should love you in sadness. I should love you in anger. As a man, if I provide for my wife all the time, when I'm upset,
Mm-hmm.
I'll provide when I'm angry. If it's in me, right? If I truly love this woman, if it's raining outside and she has to go outside, I will hold this umbrella angry, but make sure she don't get wet. You
Mm-hmm.
don't you deal with your emotion,
Yeah.
and you be whatever it is. If you be mad, fine. Be be upset, be happy, be sad, be whatever, but be who you're supposed to be to that person. And that's what people don't realize, that your emotion in this moment doesn't excuse your responsibility
Yeah.
to be what you signed up for. Because you were tempted doesn't mean that your cheating will be excused. Because, yeah, that woman or that man kept throwing themselves at you, and you and I had an issue, and you kind of crossed the line. Maybe it wasn't physical cheating, but you had an inappropriate conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That emotion does not excuse the fact of what you did. But oftentimes we hide behind an emotion, and
Mm-hmm.
we justify bad behavior by a vulnerable emotion.
Yep.
and that just won't fly.
Oh, I agree. I agree because it's still no excuse, right? And
No.
I talk about that. Like we have to be, even for the ladies. Like I have learned that I have to be disciplined in my emotions, and I think the
Mhm.
person, man or woman, that can master. And I don't really think you'll ever master your emotions, but what I
Mhm.
mean by that is that when you can really identify when you're mad, when you're triggered, when
Right.
you're hurt, shoot, even when you want to spend frivolous money, like like it's
Okay.
not the idea of spending money. You're like, oh, this is a trigger.
Yeah.
Like when you can really start seeing those things about yourself,
Hmm.
it will really change how you operate, and you become so self-aware of your emotions
Yeah.
that you start to control them. And then it changes for you. And once I learned that, I was like, listen,
Yeah.
the person that can discipline their emotions,
Right.
you really become a force to be reckoned with, but at such a peaceful level, because you understand what's happening. It's not turmoil anymore. And I think
Mhm.
that was the prayer that I asked God for in my healing, was to not so much be delivered from the pain, because it still comes. Trauma still comes. PTSD still happens. Sometimes you get flashbacks for real out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's weird, right?
Right.
But to at least understand it and know, oh, okay, I'm not just feeling all this pain because I'm a bad person, because God hates me, because I should just
Right.
not be here, that I am having a emotional response to probably something that I've already experienced. So yeah, y'all master them emotions, and y'all gonna be a-okay.
And you know what? Contrary to popular belief, you can be healed and still have triggers. And I think people don't realize that triggers are attached to trauma.
Hmm.
And you cannot get rid of trauma. All you can do is go to therapy and learn how to not allow trauma to control you,
Yep,
right?
that's
I
it.
think we sometimes expect the person to not have triggers. No, they got trauma in the past. Their past will always be the past.
Hmm.
I think that we have to be responsible in our relationship
Hmm.
and learn that let me not demonize a person for
Hmm.
their triggers. Let me understand how to love them through their triggers.
Hmm.
Let me learn that, you know what, my lady has a trust factor.
Hmm.
It's not that she doesn't want to trust me. I'm a man, and a man hurt her in the past.
Hmm.
So let me not do things that will trigger her. If she calls me and I'm busy at work and in a meeting, can't answer, let me text her really quick and say, you know what, Jay, in a meeting, babe, give me
Hmm.
about 30 minutes. That way she doesn't worry what I'm doing,
Hmm.
right? If I said that I'm going to call her in an hour, don't go 2 hours and don't honor that request,
Right.
right? If it's on a weekend and I'm out with the fellas, I say I'll be back, babe, at 8:30, and it's 10. Let me have called to tell her we're running a little late, went a little long. I'm coming right to you. Give me about 30 minutes. Do things to ease that person's mind. But see, we think as a man that I'm a sucker for doing that. No,
Hmm.
you are a man who loves your woman.
Hmm.
You got to do
Hmm.
things for the betterment of you two being together. But sometimes we don't recognize that's called a sacrifice. Is when you do things that you might not normally do for the benefit of that person,
Hmm.
right? Even if sometimes means being a little bit less of what you normally would be, if that offends that person. What I mean is that, like myself, I'm a flirtatious person by nature,
Hmm.
right? If my woman has an insecurity or a trust factor, I have to curve that.
Hmm.
Although the flirting is not like inappropriate, it's just, you know, I'll say, hey, gorgeous in a minute. Hey, beautiful, right? But if she's uncomfortable with that, I
Hmm.
have to watch that. I'm a hugger by nature.
Hmm.
I'm always around women all the time. I have to make sure that she's comfortable with that to be
Hmm.
successful with her. 'Cause at the end of the day, she has to be my number one priority. And I think that men have to understand certain sacrifices
Yeah.
certain denying of yourself for the betterment of loving on this woman, right? You don't want to do anything that can be perceived as what it's not. One of the hardest things for a man, I believe, is to go from years of being single to now all of a sudden married and
Ooh.
not understanding the weight of marriage, the weight of
Yeah.
that responsibility, right? The because contrary to what people believe, the highest office that a man can hold is not pastor, not president, is husband.
Mhm.
That is the highest office that a man can hold in the eyes of God, is husband.
Mhm.
Because husband comes with the responsibility
That's a lot.
of watching over this family and essentially doing what God does for us as individuals:
Mhm.
love us, protect us, provide for us. Not that a man is God, but a man reports to God for this family. That's how God set it up. In the Garden of Eden, when they messed up, he said, Adam, where are you? Never asked for Eve. Adam,
Mhm.
where are you? Because you are the one I held accountable to this. You are the one I gave the responsibility for washing that woman with the water of the word.
Mhm.
Where are you? I need an answer. What happened?
Mhm.
And a lot of us today, Jay, are doing what Adam did. It's that woman you gave me.
Oh yeah, they put it on us. They said Eve, and I say, well, if Adam was the leader, then why did he bite the apple? He was supposed to be the leader, Adam. Okay, so yeah, they'll
Yeah,
say it's the woman's fault, right? And
yeah.
I agree too, GD. I just wanted to give a tip to the men, right?
Sure.
Is that when you communicate to a woman, right, and you're genuine, regardless of what that communication is or whatever step in the relationship y'all are in, right? But when you're genuine like that and you are showing a woman that you genuinely care
Hmm.
about her emotions, and I care whether you trust me. I care whether like I communicate with you.
Right.
When I tell you a woman will open up to you, and it's a divine energy that I feel like when
Come on now.
God will bless a good man with, well, not, let me not say a good man, right? But when you're a husband and you're
Hmm.
doing those things,
Hmm.
your
Hmm.
wife is in a good mood, she's better, y'all are
Hmm.
together, like the relationship is good, and I just feel like God blesses you because you're doing right by what He gave you. It's a gift to be able to have a wife.
Yes. You
So
you you
yeah, you do right by her, she gonna bless you, God gonna bless you too. So
come on now. You in the book now. Even the Bible says it says husbands, deal with your wives with knowledge and understanding,
hmm
as you both are heirs to this grace,
hmm
right? And it talks about how you treat that woman, and talks about how if you treat her wrong, that will impact the way in which your prayers are answered,
hmm
right?
hmm
Knowledge and understanding. That's how we have to deal with her, as we're both heirs to this grace. It says, as not to hinder your prayers, meaning that if you mistreat this woman as the weaker vessel, that's what the word says, not weak as in strength,
hmm
as in delicate,
hmm
right? If you mistreat her, that's going to impact the way God hear your prayers and blesses you. And a lot of men don't get that. That in marriage, watch how you treat that woman. If
hmm
the Bible says she's a good thing and you obtain favor with the Lord, it is not that you protect her because she is physically weak. She's important.
hmm
That is why you protect her, because you've obtained favor by receiving this virtuous wife. When you read all of what that Proverb 31 woman really is, and especially around verse 10 and 11, when it talks about how um, her husband's heart can safely trust in her, it takes a super woman that a man can safely trust in. Because
hmm
for a man to be vulnerable and to be emotionally naked, that man has to see enough virtue in that woman that he trusts that she has enough virtue to cover his insecurity.
Yeah.
So when he lays down his um, hard shell and exterior and lets her be his safe place, oh, he really loves that woman.
Mhm.
I encourage any woman, don't be like Delilah. Delilah had a good method and a bad motive.
Mhm.
And there are a lot of men who have been scorned like that. Same way with women. There have been some men who have mistreated women with good method and bad motive.
Mhm.
Because the truth of the matter is, the enemy can send you something that smells and looks like heaven, but
Mhm.
it'll send you through hell.
Sure will.
Because the enemy know what you desire too. And as
Mhm.
an angel of light, he can appear in different forms. Even in the Bible, he was a serpent. He's a lot of different things. He was a drag. I mean, when you really read the Bible for yourself and realize how the Lucifer is described in many different aspects, whether it's a serpent or whether it's a roaring lion, all these different things, he's seeking whom he may devour.
Mhm.
Sometimes the enemy takes the hold of people, and then people will devour you because they have preyed on the insecurity, they have preyed on your lack of healing, they have preyed on the fact that they see, you know what, I can manipulate that. That's nothing but the enemy. But let me, before we go, what is the name of your book?
Yes, absolutely. So, have our book here, y'all. So it's called Cream. Cash ruined everything around me, y'all. On Amazon. So you could just pop it in your search bar or type in J Monroe Cream, and it'll come up, you guys. So very, 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 very good read, y'all. It is a fictional book, so not an autobiography. But very much with a life meaning in this book for a lot of young girls that I think would be, or just for women in general, that I think would be good when we're chasing sometimes these very aesthetic or materialistic things, that can be very, very, very dangerous. It's not always glitter and gold when you get to the end of the pot. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's, yeah, not good stuff in there.
Well, listen, this has been a very hot episode, and I'm going to get with you offline because I'm going to have you back. I feel like
Yeah,
it was so
that's
much that we did not even get to talk about because an
it.
hour goes by so quickly. But um, thank you for coming on today and for chopping it up with me today. I look forward to many more conversations with you. I want to thank my Envision Radio listeners who are listening and watching via social media and by the radio. We greatly appreciate all your support each and every week as we come to you every Friday on Envision Radio at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We greatly thank you for your support and all of your words of encouragement and just for your consistency and listening to each and every show every week. But
Mhm.
as always, my final thoughts is this. Again, never lose yourself in love because you are all that you have. Never think that you're less than because you are more than enough because God made you in his image. And if you're created in the image of God, then there's greatness on the inside of you. It's not ahead of you, it's inside of you. Tap into your potential and be all that God designed you to be. As always, I will see you next time. I'll holla.
Bye. Thank you.